president about what's going to happen with this USIC mandatory?
Yeah, I spoke to Paco Valcazar actually about an hour ago. Get on very well with Paco. They're in a difficult position because obviously they're desperate to be a part of this fight, but they also have an obligation to Alexander Usyk that he is mandatory. So in an ideal world for the WBO, he would, in some way, Usyk needs to be happy with the resolution and the situation. So, but at the same time, I said that if there was no belts on the line in this fight, it would still take place and it would still be the biggest fight in boxing. So, it's a tough one for Paco because he really wants to be a part of it, but you can't just ignore people's mandatory obligations at the same time. So myself, Bob, Alex Krasuk, Egis Klimas, all the parties involved, Alexander Usyk, will have to come up with some kind of solution that would keep him happy or vacate the belt.
Thank you. J.R. Bell next, please.
Hello there, Eddie. Just talking about our last conversation before the Jacobs fight, we were talking about the events that you were putting up. I had to just ask this question. How relieved would you be after December 20th, after all of the events that you put up this year are done?
Well, I think the answer is very relieved, but it's really because of the close that we've had. We've had so many fights, so many great fights, there's been a couple of average fights thrown in there as well. You can't predict what's going to happen in the ring, but the finish to the year is always very important. And so is the start to the year. And I feel like we've not finished as strong as this in any year I've been promoting boxing, with AJ against Pulev, with Gennadiy against Szeremeta, and then Canelo against Smith. In the middle of a pandemic, it really is, a tribute to the work of Matchroom and the team that we have on both sides of the Atlantic, and also our broadcast partners as well. DAZN, I love the fact that, what was it, probably 4 months ago, all these guys sitting at home, these hardcore fans that want to talk about the demise of DAZN. Apparently they're going out of business, they're pulling out of boxing, and then they launch a global product and actually are more aggressive than they've ever been, have a better schedule to close the year than they've ever had before. And I really feel that, obviously, I'm a big advocate of DAZN in the US, but when you look at the schedule that they're providing, you've just had 3 back-to-back pay-per-views really over 3 months. You had Charlo, you had Gervonta against Santa Cruz, and you had Spence against Garcia. You're talking about $230, right, for those 3 nights. You're about to have Anthony Joshua, Gennadiy Golovkin, and Canelo Alvarez across 1 week. And for $99.99, you get an entire year on DAZN, and the value for the global customer now is unbelievable. So we're really happy with how we're closing the year. We're really happy how well we've worked in the environment. It's been very, very difficult, very challenging, but also very rewarding. And of course, there's so much more drama to come this weekend. Gennadiy is in his record-breaking defense. He has a tough undefeated challenger in Szeremeta. And of course, the day after is Canelo against Callum Smith. And obviously everybody's looking towards the 2 winners of those fights. I'm a little bit biased because obviously Callum Smith's my guy. But I know from a DAZN perspective, the reason they're putting these 2 together, on the same weekend is to build to that 3rd mega fight.
Thank you. Hans next, please.
Hey, Eddie, how you doing, man?
Good, Hans.
So yeah, I just want to ask you straight up, man. Do you believe that Triple G is still the best 160-pounder in the world? Or do you kind of have somebody like a Jamal Charlo? I guess you could throw Canelo in there. But yeah, do you still have Triple G as the number 1 in the world, or is it kind of a toss-up? And who do you have?
I kind of think that we're, boxing fans, of which I'm one of them. We're very dismissive, aren't we, after even anything that's not a grade A performance, and we start questioning people. Gennadiy Golovkin had 2 tremendous fights with Canelo Alvarez. 2 fights that a lot of people thought that he won. Some people thought that Canelo won. Some people thought it was a draw. But unquestionably, they were tremendous fights. You know, he came back with a relatively straightforward fight against Steve Jobs. Not Steve Jobs, there's the guy from
Steve Rhodes. Steve Rhodes.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't want to fight Steve Jobs. Blimey, that'd be expensive. You know, and against Steve Rolls. And from there, you know, he had what can only be described again as a tremendous fight with Derevenchenko. And it was only because the Derevenchenko fight was close that people start questioning now, okay, you know, is Gennadiy at the latter end of his career? I think no. You know, I think he was going through a little bit of a transitional period with Jonathan Banks as well. I do expect him to put in a destructive display against Szeremeta. I believe he's going to win the fight by knockout. And I think he's extremely motivated to go on and fight anybody. I mean, you know, the pleasure of working with Gennadiy Golovkin is he'll never turn his back down at an opportunity or a challenge. And I think when you look at the division at the moment, you know how highly I think of Demetrius Andrade. You know, he needs that standout fight. Charlo is a great champion as well. And then you've got Gennadiy Golovkin. You know, you've got other guys in the mix as well, Jaime Munguia. But I think that with Gennadiy, and I will say this as well, you know, I know that he's laser focused on this weekend. And when he does join us, he don't want to talk about Canelo Alvarez, you know, and I want to try and avoid those questions if possible, because the same as Anthony Joshua last week, of course, I will tell you, in my opinion, the ultimate challenge that he wants to accept next, I believe, is Canelo Alvarez, but he's just focused on Szeremeta. I believe his resume, you know, stands as the best middleweight in the world right now. And by the way, he will fight Charlo, he will fight Munguia, and he will fight Andrade. If the Canelo Alvarez fight doesn't present itself. But a lot has got to happen this weekend for that to be the case. But, you know, pound for pound, you have to say, I think he's still the most exciting fighter on the planet.
Okay, just want to quickly follow that up. That's a great answer, and I know he does have the best resume at 160 pounds. But you know, it's kind of like when people talk about Pacquiao. Pacquiao has the best resume at 147 pounds, but they don't really consider him the best. But do you believe that he's the best at 160 pounds? I don't really want to twist your arm or nothing like that, you know. But
yes, I would say with everything that he's achieved, with his resume, with his performances, I would have to say yes. You know, again, you know how highly I rate Demetrius Andrade. And not for no fault of Demetrius is he hasn't been able to get the standout marquee names on his resume to maybe say that I am on paper the number one middleweight in the world. So, you know, whilst he may be, you have to say that with everything Gennadiy's achieved, with everything he's shown, and the ability that I still think he has, yes, you have to put him as the number 160 pounder in the world.
And just my last thing for you, you said if he doesn't get the Canelo fight, you will fight Charlo, Andrade, stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of people believe that he probably will get the Canelo fight, most likely anyways, don't really know. But, you know, win or lose, if he does get that fight, he typically fights twice a year. Let's say he fights Canelo, he beats him, loses, whatever. Is the angle still going to be to fight either Charlo or Andrade? Because that is, you know, that's the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Canelo Alvarez, if he beats Callum Smith, you don't know where the weight division lays. I don't personally see Canelo Alvarez coming back to 160. So, you know, would Triple G move to 168 to fight him? I mean, there's so many questions to answer. All I can tell you, honestly, is that, you know, there's a list of fighters that I know he wants to fight. And, you know, they do include all the names that you've suggested, but he's got to get through Friday night first. And then, you know, for me, I'm hoping for a Callum Smith victory. If that doesn't happen, you know that every broadcaster that would be working with them and certainly DAZN and the fans would push for number 3 first. And then what happens after that, we'll have to wait and see.
Danny Flexen next, please.
Hey, Eddie. How you doing?
You all right, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. What impressed you the most about AJ's performance at the weekend? And where do you see his stylistic advantages over Fury should that fight get made next?
I just think he's really learning and becoming clever, adapting to the opponent that's in front of him. You know, you saw in the Ruiz 2 fight that he adapted an approach that was absolutely perfect to deal with Andy Ruiz. On Saturday, he adapted an approach that was very, very effective to beat Kubrat Pulev. I think it's mad that people, you know, oh, he could have, you know, he could have made it easier and just gone out there like a wrecking ball and destroyed him in the 4th or 5th round. He's like, yeah, but he also boxed his ear holes off and took his time, broke him down and battered him, you know, and produced one of the sensational knockouts of the year. So you can't really win, you know. Oh, I saw someone say he looked a bit vulnerable in there. I mean, he got hit twice, I think, in the whole fight. And he's also, people are saying, oh, he's stuck between styles. He's not stuck between styles. He's just realized how to become a very effective heavyweight. You know, before the fight, oh, do you think he'll still be as exciting? Ask anyone in that arena or watched on TV, was that exciting? You know, when he lets his hands go, when he realizes he has a fight to hurt, he is one of the best fighters in the world to watch. And he's becoming a fantastic heavyweight. Great variation with a jab, great feet. He can lock you up on the inside. He can beat you up on the inside. He can box you at range. And he hasn't boxed for a year. So I thought it was an outstanding performance, to be honest with you. He got a very, very motivated Kubrat Pulev. You saw how tough he was. So I think his style will adapt to what's in front of him. I do think against Tyson Fury, he'll be more aggressive, because I don't think you want to fiddle around with Tyson Fury and let him play his game of, you know, pouring you and frustrating you. He's got to use his physical attributes in that fight. He's got to get on the inside and he's got to try and beat him up. And he's got to land some of the shots that he landed on Kubrat Pulev. So I just think that it's not really a style that he's adapting now. He's just using the most efficient way to beat what's in front of him. And, you know, if that means going in like a wrecking ball against Tyson Fury, he will do that. But people are still disregarding his boxing ability. You know, we saw it against Andy Ruiz. We saw it again against Kubrat Pulev. He's not really getting the credit for that, I think, you know. But I thought it was a great performance. I thought it was a really well-rounded, mature performance that was a bit of everything.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, unfortunately, we're going to have to bring Gennadiy's call time a bit earlier now. So we're going to get Eddie to introduce Gennadiy right now, actually. Eddie, see if you could go ahead and do that, please. He's just had to bring his section of the call forward, I'm afraid, guys.
Okay, and as we're going to see him pop up on our screens, I presume. As I said, this Friday night. Hello, Gennadiy.
Hi, Eddie.
How are you?
Hi, Eddie. I'm good.
Good.
Very
Look
well.
forward to seeing you. I fly tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Sounds good.
Looking forward to a very important night this Friday live on DAZN. Gennadiy Golovkin will make the 21st record-breaking defense of his middleweight world championship against Szeremeta, undefeated Polish mandatory challenger at the Hard Rock in Florida. Very, very excited. And we're going to pass to the floor for a few questions shortly. But firstly, Gennadiy, you look in great shape. You're like Benjamin Button. You look younger every time I see you. You know, you look great, feeling good. Had a good camp.
And I feel great.
Guys, we're going to go to the floor for questions, please.
It's not working. Pardon me. Sorry, Marshall with the first question, please.
Hey, Gennadiy, how you doing?
Good.
So with the COVID restrictions and everywhere and all over the place, how was camp for you? Was it easy to get sparring? How was that for you?
Can I speak Russian, yeah?
Да, пожалуйста.
Ну, в принципе, было достаточно много времени адаптироваться к COVID, то есть к такому событию, что происходит в этом году. И, в принципе, благодаря своей команде мы смогли найти себе и тренировочный кемп, пройти его успешно. И благодаря тем людям, кто меня поддерживает, мы смогли хорошо подготовиться.
Yes, indeed. But we had enough time to adapt to the COVID situation this year. And thanks to my team, we were able to organize the training camp and get ready for the fight.
Okay. And being prepared for the fight, did he have to do anything special in preparation for this opponent in sparring, or it's just general?
В принципе, да. В принципе, готовились по-общему. Опять же, немножко работали больше над различными спектрами над другими. Ну, работа, в принципе, была всегда такая трудовая, сильная, умная, так что я себя чувствую великолепно. Думаю, что мы готовы хорошо.
Yes, it was more of a general training, and at the same time, I tried to broaden my scope, and special emphasis was made on power training. And I feel that I'm ready for this fight.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Martin.
Dan Raphael, please.
Oh, thank you very much, Anthony. Hello, everybody. Eddie, good to see you. Gennadiy, it's nice to talk to you. How have you been? Glad to be on here with you. My question for you is: this fight against Szeremeta has been a long time coming for you. I know it was supposed to be back in the spring, and I just wondered if you could describe if there's been any frustration in getting to the point where you knew you had a date and everything was set, because there was a long period of time where I know your team was working hard with the zone and with Eddie to try to get this situated while they were also ironing out the remainder of their calendar.
Ну да, с каждым приближением к бою все больше и больше начинало вериться в то, что действительно этот бой случится. Действительно, этот бой хотелось и ожидалось с начала года, так что все это затянулось, а много было вещей, которые нам не давали сделать этот бой. Я рад тому, что этот бой действительно будет, и он пройдет в эту пятницу. Я хочу поблагодарить всех и Матчрума, и Дазон за организацию этого боя, что мы сейчас все готовы.
Yes, indeed. But when as we approached this fight, the more faith I had that this fight will indeed take place. Of course, I would have wanted for this fight to take place in the beginning of this year, but I would like to use this opportunity to thank everyone involved: Matchroom, the Zone, my team, to make this possible. And I'm really happy that indeed this coming Friday, this fight will take place.
Could I just ask one follow-up, Anthony, if that's okay?
Fire away.
And I know, Gennadiy, that you're very happy that it's finally set, but I know there was, on the business side, I know you're excited to be back in the ring because that's, you're a championship boxer, but I know that on the business side, it was complicated. There was a lot of conversation that the Zone was trying to redo deals and change money and all that kind of stuff. Can you speak to, from the businessman, Gennadiy Golovkin, what that was like to deal with as you were trying also to prepare for a fight?
Dan, I will answer that question. I know that Gennadiy wants to focus just on the fight, and I think he believes that he's happy with the situation, and he'll address everything moving forward following this weekend, but we focus on the fight on Saturday.
Okay, not really an answer, but thank you.
Friday.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dan. And Ames next, please.
Ames here for Boxing News TV. Gennadiy, you're coming up to a history-making fight. First of all, congratulations. And you've had some amazing fights along the way. What I want to know is, of the fights that could have been made but weren't because fighters avoided you, which fight did you wish was made and why?
Да, я рад, да, что вы все-таки упоминаете, что для меня это исторический бой. Да, я думаю, что в будущем многие люди все равно это будут понимать и осознают, что это действительно для среднего веса будет такой исторический бой. И хотелось бы его провести действительно раньше. Отвечая на ваш вопрос, я бы, наверное, сказал бы, что каждый сильный, каждый спортсмен, каждый соперник, тот, кто отклонялся от боя, был в свое время силен, был в топе и действительно чем-то выделялся. Я думаю, что все в тот момент мне интересно противостояние было. Знаете, наверное, я скажу, наверное, о Келли Павлике. Келли Павлик мне очень сильно симпатизировал в то время, когда мы все примерно начинали и восходили, ну, то есть поднимались. Я думаю, это Келли Павлик.
Thank you very much for calling this fight historic. I believe that with time, people will realize that this coming Friday, the fight will indeed be a historic fight for the middleweight division. And I should also say that I wish it would have taken place earlier. Answering your question, I believe that every opponent that I met with was a strong opponent, was at the top at the time. And speaking about the boxers, I would mention Kelly Pavlik. Kelly Pavlik was a boxer we were all looking for.
That's it. Yeah, can you hear them?
And this is something that we've been all looking up to. So that's the boxer I would mention, Kelly Pavlik.
Thank you. Carlos, next, please.
Hi, Gennadiy. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. You know, you mentioned this being a historic fight for your career as a middleweight champion. In your opinion, you know, you've done just about everything that can be done in your career as a middleweight, but do you personally feel that there is still some things that you feel like you can still accomplish at 160 pounds?
Я еще не все достиг. То есть мне надо, чтобы достигнуть своего желания, надо победить в пятницу вечером. После того, как пройдет этот бой, мы будем уже разговаривать о том, что мне стоит еще достигнуть.
I have not achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. I first need to win on Friday, and after that, I will start looking into other opportunities and other options that I need to look into in order to have more achievements in my career.
Just a quick follow-up, you know, this is going to be obviously your first in one fight of 2020. You've been accustomed to fighting multiple times throughout your career, especially, you know, twice a year in the last few years. Is a goal to maybe get at least 2 fights in for 2021?
Я надеюсь, но все же связано с пандемией. Я рад, что все налаживается, что все становится лучше, яснее. И многие были в такой ситуации, многие провели всего лишь по одному бою после годовой паузы. Так что я думаю, что все наладится и будет гораздо больше.
Yes, I do hope to have more fights during a year, but it's obviously was caused by the pandemic, and I'm not the only one. Many fighters ended up in this situation when they only had just one fight during this year, but hopefully it's getting better, and with time we'll have opportunities to fight more.
Thank you. Cynthia, next, please.
Hi, Gennadiy. How are you? Hope all is well. Cynthia Conte from Ring TV. I know that you've been wanting to fight back home in Kazakhstan. Is that still possible?